Reggae Just Extra with Ras Dennis.
According to a report published on July 21, 2023, by Statista, a global data and business intelligence platform, Jamaica is said to be one of the countries with the highest homicide rates in Latin America and the Caribbean. Indeed, the number of people murdered in Jamaica amounted to 1,498 in 2022, slightly up from 1,474 victims a year earlier. As the island Jamaica grapples with gun violence, the local music industry is not immune to this scourge. My name is Ras Dennis, and you are welcome back to another video by Reggae Just Extra.
You are now watching Reggae Just Extra, the episode of reggae legends who were victims of gun violence.
In 1976, Bob Marley survived an assassination attempt in his home, which was thought to be politically motivated. For decades, guns have been a feature of Jamaica's political and social landscape, from the turbulent 1970s as depicted by prize-winning author Marlon James to the current widespread use of all types of firearms by criminal gangs. Moreover, a fascination with firearms has been embedded in Jamaican popular culture, from the famous 1972 film The Harder They Come depicting gangster life to dancehall music's gun lyrics, especially over the past decade. At dances, gun salutes remain a common, but illegal, practice when a favorite tune is played. Recently, the government banned radio stations from playing music with violent lyrics in an attempt to stem the tide of violence in the country, and in an August 2022 speech, Prime Minister Andrew Holness acknowledged, "We have a chronic gun culture in Jamaica."
Criminals will begin to understand that we are changing the risk-reward dynamic of crime in Jamaica. The probability of being caught is great. The penalty for crimes is high, and the opportunities and loopholes to escape justice are being closed. Already, we're seeing the impact of the use of emergency
In this
powers.
episode, we will take a closer look at top 10 reggae artists who were victims of gun violence over the years. Kindly stay tuned and do remember to subscribe to this channel, like and hit the notification bell to be the first to watch our next video.
Number 10.
Donald Tabby Shaw. Tabby, whose real name is Donald Shaw, was one of two men killed in a drive-by shooting on McKinley Drive in St. Andrew on March 29th. He was 67. According to police, theorized that Tabby's killing was a likely reprisal, as the singer's son had been held by the police in relation to a murder. Tabby Diamond was one of Jamaica's most treasured voices, had an iconic career that spans over 50 years. Together with Fitzroy Bunny Simpson and Lloyd Judge Ferguson, who provided harmonies and occasionally lead, he formed the Mighty Diamonds, one of the most famous Jamaican vocal groups of the 70s and 80s. After unsuccessfully having recorded for Stranger Cole and Oneil Edwards, they got their major breakthrough in 1975 when they started to record with Joseph Jojo Who Kim's Channel 1 studio. They scored big hits with Hey Girl and Country Living and consolidated their success with Right Time. In 1976, Virgin released their debut album titled Right Time, a classic collection showcasing perfectly the Mighty Diamonds' uncanny ability to write catchy, meaningful songs. They sold throughout the reggae world and picked up many crossover sales. The rest is history.
Number 9.
Hugh Mundell. In a brief career cut short by his tragic murder in 1983, Hugh Mundell recorded some of the best music ever to come out of Jamaica, capturing the spirit of his time across 5 albums, 2 of which were released by Greensleeves. Africa Must Be Free by 1983 remains his signature track. Hugh Mundell was born in East Kingston, Jamaica, on the 14th of July, 1962. According to reports, a burglar was arrested by the police at the instance of Mundell. Unfortunately, the arrest didn't go down well with the brother of the suspect, who approached Mundell demanding for his brother's release. On October 14th, 1983, Ricardo Codrington shot and killed Mundell while sitting in his vehicle on Grants Pen Avenue, Kingston, Jamaica. Also in the car were Mundell's wife in the passenger seat and Junior Reed, who was sitting in the back seat. Reed survived the assault. The killer, 25-year-old Ricardo Codrington, laborer of Above Rocks, St. Andrew, was found guilty and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment at hard labor for the murder of Human Dill.
Number 8.
Early B. Early B was born Orlando Neal on February 28, 1957 into a poor family and left a promising school career at age 17 to support his mother and two brothers. He began work as a machine clerk, but within a year was elevated to acting supervisor. Early B began performing live on Soul Imperial Hi-Fi alongside his young apprentice, Wild Apache, aka Super Cat. He supposedly earned his stage name as a result of his reputation for arriving to shows early, thus gaining the name Early Bird, then finally Early B. He took the storytelling aspect of toasting to a whole new level with hits like Send and the Patient, Sunday Dish, Gateman Get Frayed, and One Will Wheelie, all of which were in the JBC Top 100 Songs for 1984. With so many lyrics, he made a perfect recording DJ. On September 11, 1994, Early B was yet another victim of random dancehall violence. He was shot while performing with Brigadier Jerry at the Windsor Cricket Club in Dorchester, Massachusetts. While rumors have circulated as to the reasoning behind the murder, his killers have never been found.
Number 7.
King Tubby. King Tubby was born Osborne Ruddock in 1941 in Kingston, Jamaica. He started his work in electronics as a repairer, but by the time of his death in 1989, he had become a musical legend. King Tubby was best known as a pioneer of dub music, a strain of reggae that relied heavily on studio manipulation for its reverberated, echo-driven sound. Tragically, on the February 6, 1989, King Tubby returned home from a night out and was shot dead in cold blood. The senseless slaying of this mild, shy, and widely loved man sent the reggae community worldwide into shock. As the news filtered out from Jamaica, communities across the whole world mourned his passing. King Tubby was pivotal in the development of dub music. His efforts are the foundation of several contemporary music styles like dubstep, jungle, and drum and bass. Dub music also influenced the development of post-punk, house, ambient, trip-hop, hip-hop, and techno. His death remains a mystery, and although it has been suspected that the shooting was the result of a botched robbery, Tubby's killer was never apprehended.
Number 6.
Panhead. 90s dancehall saw an increase in gun lyrics, and Anthony Johnson aka Panhead rode this wave, with releases like Gunman Tune and Respect Gunman. By 1993, his sound took a more constructive turn with the release of songs like Under Bondage and African Princess. As his popularity grew, he performed with the likes of Buju Banton, Beanie Man, and Capleton. Although he was predicted to be a major star, his new road was short-lived as the 27-year-old was shot dead as he left a dance in Spanish Town in October 1993, leaving a widow and two children. His death shocked the music community in Kingston and prompted several performers to record tributes. Capleton recorded Cold-Blooded Murderer, Buju Banton released the single Murderer, and Beanie Man and Luciano collaborated on No Mama No Cry, which went to number 1 in Jamaica in 1994. The crime has never been solved.
Number 5.
Henry Junjo Laws. During the early years of dancehall reggae, Henry Junjo Laws was the most important and influential producer around. His raw, street-level sound and use of pre-existing rhythms virtually defined dancehall in its pre-digital phase. Laws produced many of the top DJs of the early 80s and also helped more traditional reggae singers bridge their influences and the new style. Unfortunately, Laws was also something of a star-crossed figure. He spent the latter half of the 80s in jail, halting his career just as the new, electronic raga sound was changing the face of dancehall. Although laws returned to work in the 90s, he was no longer on the cutting edge, and tragedy struck on June 14, 1999, when he was gunned down in London by two men, likely gang members. The case remains unsolved.
Number 4.
Nitty Gritty. Glenn Augustus Holness, otherwise known by his stage name Nitty Gritty, was a popular reggae singer. Born in the Augusttown section of Kingston, Jamaica, he was the second of 11 children born to religious parents. On June 24, 1991, Nitty Gritty was shot dead in front of Superpower Record Shop in Brooklyn, New York at the age of 34, for which DJ Supercat was initially suspected yet later cleared. It was reported that Nitty Gritty pulled a gun on Supercat in broad daylight in front of a Brooklyn record store, pulled the trigger but the gun jammed. One of Supercat's crew handed him a gun, Supercat shot and killed Nitty Gritty. NYPD ruled it self-defense.
Number 3.
Prince Far I. Prince Far I was more than a gruff-voiced DJ who thundered against Babylon. His art was steeped in the Jamaican storytelling tradition and at times came close to performance poetry, or what we would call spoken word today. His style of reggae journalism was totally unique and probably influenced the early dub poets as well as dancehall DJs like Nitty Gritty, Joseph Cotton, and even Buju Banton. On September 15, 1983, he was shot at his home in Kingston, Jamaica, during a robbery allegedly relating to a dispute over money, and died later in hospital. His killing was the final element that convinced Roy Cousins to emigrate to Liverpool in England for good.
Number 2.
Lucky Dube. Although he wasn't a Jamaican but was the biggest selling reggae artist of South Africa. His album Prisoner was South Africa's best-selling album of the 1980s and 90s after he discovered artists like Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and began the switch from Bakenga to reggae. On October 18, 2007, Lucky Dube was killed by armed robbers in Rosettenville, a Johannesburg suburb, shortly after dropping 2 of his 7 children off at their uncle's house. Dube was driving his Chrysler 300C, which the assailants were after. Police reports suggest he was shot dead by carjackers who did not recognize him and believed that he was Nigerian. 5 men were arrested in connection with the murder. 3 were tried and found guilty on March 31, 2009. 2 of the men attempted to escape and were caught. Dube's convicted killers were sentenced to life in prison.
You are now watching Reggae Just Extra, the episode of reggae legends who were victims of gun violence.
Number 1.
Peter Tosh. Former whaler, Peter Tosh met his demise on September 11, 1987, when he was brutally murdered at his Barbican home in St. Andrew along with radio disc jockey Jeff Free, I. Dixon, and Wilton Brown. Tosh, 43, was murdered just 6 years after Marley died from cancer at the age of 36. According to reports, a 3-man gang came to his house on motorcycles demanding money. Tosh replied that he did not have any with him, but the gang did not believe him. They stayed at his residence for several hours and tortured Tosh in an attempt to extort money from him. Over the hours, as various associates of Tosh arrived to visit him, they were also taken hostage by the gunmen. The gunmen became more and more frustrated, especially the chief thug, Dennis Lepo Laban, a man whom Tosh had previously befriended and tried to help find work after a long jail sentence. Tosh said he did not have any money in the house, after which Laban and his fellow gunmen began opening fire in a reckless manner. Tosh was shot twice in the head and killed. Dennis Lepo Laban was convicted of the murders and faced a life sentence. Born Winston Hubert McIntosh, the Stepping Razor is considered one of reggae's most uninhibited performers and is known for albums like Equal Rights, Mystic Man, and Wanted Dread and Alive. These are the Reggae Gist Extra's top 10 reggae artists who were victims of gun violence over the years. Other related victims of gun violence include former Bob Marley's drummer, Carlton Barrett, who was shot by his wife's boyfriend. Brother of Papa San, Patrick Dirtsman Thompson, was gunned down on December 21, 1993 by 4 assailants on his veranda in Spanish Town. Earl Anthony Robinson, aka General Echo, was shot dead by police in Kingston, Jamaica in 1980 along with Selector Flux, who also worked on his Ecotone sound system, and Stereophonic owner Leon Big John Johns, after they had stopped the car they were traveling in. The incident has never been satisfactorily explained. Winston Riley, a record producer, was shot in the back of the head at his home and remained hospitalized until he died of complications on January 19, 2012. Junior Braithwaite, youngest member of the Wailing Wailers, was shot and killed at a friend's house in Kingston. Valden Dixon, aka Charlie Ace, best known for his swing-a-ling record shop on wheels that he would drive around to sell records, was murdered in the mid-1980s in a drive-by shooting. DJ Cleon Corey Mineral Boss Jones was found with multiple gunshot wounds in his Caymanas Bay, St. Catherine home on December 12. His female companion was also shot and injured. Jones was pronounced dead, but the woman survived. Donovan Unicorn McMurray was shot in the Crescent Road area of Kingston 11 on November 12. Oneil Edwards from Voicemail Dancehall Group on May 26, 2010, succumbed to his injuries after being shot 2 weeks earlier at his Duhaney Park home in St. Andrew, Jamaica. David Alexander Smith was best known for his internationally acclaimed Gully Creeper, was gunned down along Newark Avenue, Kingston 11, on December 26, 2008, just 3 years after the murder of dancer Gerald Bogle Levy, who was shot at a St. Andrew service station on January 20th. It might interest you to know that Desmond Ninjaman Ballantyne, dubbed as the Gold-Teethed Don Gargan of dancehall, his son, Jonal Ballantyne, and a friend, Dennis Clayton, were found guilty of the murder of Ricardo Johnson and sentenced on December 18, 2017, to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. May the souls of all the reggae artists and other persons who died due to gun violence rests in perfect peace. Amen. Many thanks for watching, and do remember to subscribe, give it a like, and post a positive comment in the comment section below, and I'll see you again very soon for another video.
Many thanks for watching Reggae Just Extra with Ras Dennis.